Chapter 12, Task Relevant Maturity. There are 4 steps towards maturity, and every employee goes through these 4 steps, and the manager needs to make sure that they're following the guidance based on the maturity of the individual. The first step is directing. For any new employee joining your team, you have to tell them what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. The second step, once they are mature enough, is you coach them. You coach them by individually focusing on their goals and aspirations and how it matches to the company goals and aspirations so that they can move forward. Post that is supporting. Once they are on board, they are aligned with what the work that is that they are supposed to do. Now support them emotionally with the reasonings, brainstorming, supporting them with their decision making. And once they are supported, then at the last step, you can get to delegating. You can delegate something once they have actually matured through these steps. So this model of situational style of leadership is very important for each of us as leaders to learn, because a lot of employees, when they are new, even if they are senior, when they come to your team for the first time, you have to direct them. You have to give them specific ideas and then eventually move to coaching, then supporting, and then delegating. So this is the situation that you are in, is S1, S2, S3, S4. These are the terms that you can use. If you educate your team members about this leadership styles, and then hey, this person is in S2 right now, I need to be coaching him a little bit more, then they know what you're talking about, right? Similarly, the development levels of the individual also progresses from D1 to D2 to D3 to D4, right? So here the supportive level is high, from low to high, and here the directive level is low to high. So based on how much you have to direct versus support, there are these 4 different quadrants in which any employee would fall in. Especially if you are new, you will start here. If you are a senior person, also you will start here, right? So how much of your role as a supervisor is changing based on the type of the person, into where they are into the maturity, right? So the key learning is that it's the matching is between the task and the person's capabilities, right? And everyone starts off different, and so you have to know which quadrant you're in to delegate in the most effective way, right? So every person has a different maturity. That is the key learning. If you can take out one thing from this entire video, it's that every person has a different task-based maturity. You cannot just bucket someone saying, hey, this is an immature person. No, it's the person's capability for that task is in not developed enough. They need guidance. So remember that lens, which is to look at every person from their capability standpoint for a task. Do not just bucket them as not capable in that area overall, but for that task. The second is high output, based on how you as a manager will change your directive style. That will have a huge impact, right? A same manager, a combination of a manager and an employee, they might be high performing because they have figured out the dynamics, they have set the preferences. But if you change the manager, you could notice that the entire situation changes. It could be that it goes from a high performing team to a very low performing team really quickly. So it's the combination of people together that makes for a high performing output oriented team. So big learning there is to being able to adapt your style. And so remember, the task relevant maturity has various aspects to it. It could be whether the person is motivated enough. Do they have achievement orientation, or they have goals that they are going after? Do you feel that they're ready for taking on more? Or are they maybe stressed out for various other things that are going on? Have they had the right skills in terms of education and training and experience? There's gonna be, you have to evaluate all of these factors as to where the maturity lies of a person. And once you do that, you will be able to say, hey, I think this development model for this person is a D1 and I need to go in more. And so that assessment of making that assessment as to what is that maturity for a given task is pretty critical. Now, low TRM, people with low TRM, let's say they are in the D1 bucket, right? You want to tell them what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, because you're trying to set them up with a rhythm of what are your preferences, how good work is done, right? For a medium TRM, you will have to focus not on the task itself much more, but like now that they've advanced, tasks are going well, but then now you have to focus on the individual. Go up the chain on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Support them, brainstorm them with ideas on how you would get them to solve it for themselves, but while you also coach them. So this is the coaching area, right? Where you know what the right thing is, but you're hinting them towards reaching there, but you're also partly directing, partly solving for them, but not always fully solving for them. And then high TRM is when you know you can trust them. All you need is a set of objectives that you mutually agree on, and they are in the D3 or D4 bucket, and then you support them. You support them to achieve those objectives. All you do is monitor based on those objectives and indicators. How are they doing? Are they performing or are they not performing? There's a critical tip to remember though, which is as a supervisor, you cannot say, hey, this guy was in high TRM for this. My assessment was he was high TRM. And so I just, completely delegated, but then you are surprised when certain actions happen. Remember, your role as a supervisor is to not abdicate the task. You have to delegate, but you cannot abdicate it, meaning you can't just say, hey, I don't know, something went wrong. That just doesn't work. You have to closely monitor enough to avoid all surprises. This is the key learning. When people delegate, especially based on the reading of this chapter, a lot of people over-index. They feel they are perfect delegators, but the employees don't even feel that way. First of all, a lot of times there's a disconnect, right? And sometimes you delegate so much that you have no idea as to you're almost abdicating it. You have no awareness of what's going on. So that's also bad. So there's that lens of enough supervision where you are avoiding surprises and making sure that you don't go straight to high TRM assumption. Go from low TRM, medium TRM, and then high TRM. And then at every step, check if things are actually going and progressing as your preferences are, as you would like. Because remember, you are taught. You are at your position as a supervisor because you are now taught how to manage, how to lead this org, and how to do it in the best way possible, the most efficient way possible. So the role of supervisor, to summarize, is to establish how work is done, right? You have to set priorities, set preferences, standard operating procedures, and values. Like, hey, this is how we do it. We care about quality. We deliver on time. We work hard. We whatever those preferences are as to how we do project management, how we break down tasks, establish how the work is done, and do not say that, hey, I'm setting my team up to learn by mistakes. That's a bad decision. Don't make your customers pay for your employees' tuition. You can't experiment on your customers. Your customers are paying you money. You want to make sure that those mistakes are caught by you as a supervisor. You should not say, we're just going to learn by taking mistakes. I'm okay if they fail. Well, that's okay in certain cases, but that should not be the default mechanism. That's your role. That's why you're getting paid. As a leader, your role is to make sure that you do not experiment on your customers because they're suffering. They're paying you money to give them the best service. So as your role as a supervisor, ensure that your people are doing the best work possible. And the last bit is to detect the changes in TRM. People have life situations where they could be stressed out at home, or they could have some new responsibilities which could change their TRM drastically. So as a leader, your role is to detect that, hey, your high performing, high TRM person just went into a medium, or medium went to a low. So you have to detect that. You have to detect when you have to come in, jump in and support. You have to enable your employees to go from low TRM to medium to high TRM, where they are actually self-actualizing their true potential, giving their best, giving their peak output. And if you do that, then your role as a supervisor is done. So last topic, friendship. Is it good between the leader and the subordinate? Is it a good thing? Look at how many real life questions are being solved in this one chapter, 10 pages, right? This book is phenomenal. It comes down to one simple question. It's, can you give a fair and a tough performance review feedback to that subordinate employee? Can you do that? If the answer to that question for that employee is no, forget about friendship. You don't want to do that. You don't want to have friendship. If you cringe to the fact that, hey, you have to give them a hard performance review and you can't do that in a fair way, then you shouldn't be making friends at workplace. Remember, if you have good relationship with people, almost towards the lens of friendship, then they will trust you. They know that you look after them, you will do their best, so they'll even stick around during hard times. It has advantages, but this is a very clear yes or no. If you've developed yourself as a leader to be able to give good feedback in tough situations, that is what you're getting paid for. That's what the employee is getting you as to be the manager. That's what the company needs from you to get to high performance. If that is not taken care of, forget about friendship at work. But if you can do that, and if you built yourself high enough, then that is really helpful. So that great way to think about this, right? So that brings to the end of this chapter. I'll see you all in the next one.